Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So welcome on our day 2 of Islamic psychology. What we're doing here is actually comparing the main branches of psychology with Islamic psychology position on it. Okay, so today's topic is behavioral. And what happens in behavioral psychology is that we study the connections between your mind and your behavior. That's why very often we hear cognitive behavioral approach as a phrase, because behavior cannot exist without a thought, without cognition. That is the premise. Okay, so by doing that, by researching those links, we hope that if we can use or predict how use the knowledge or predict how humans will behave, we can build better habits as in individuals. We can create better solutions for communities on the level of companies as well, meaning we can create a better life standards or even working standards for communities. So behaviorism is also known as the behavioral psychology because that theory is based on behaviors, and very often it is said that they are attained, those habits of behaviors, they are attained or acquired through conditioning. Right, so if the conditioning happens through interactions with environment, then we establish a habit of behavior. So behavioral psychologists, they believe that our responses to environment, and they call it environmental stimuli, they determine our action. Right, so first is the stimuli, and then it's our behavior. So there is that phrase called instrumental conditioning or operant conditioning, and what it means, that jargon describes is the method of learning. And we learn, meaning we behave, right? We learn through two aspects in this conditioning, and that is punishment and reinforcement. Punishment and reinforcement. So this operant conditioning is associated with our behavior, but also with our learning. Right? So it probably goes back to conditioning times even in our childhood, also with our first primary school or educational experience. But not only that, when we grow up as an adult, as a mature individuals, we become very assertive and responsible. Well, hopefully responsible for our choices, and hopefully aware of the habits that we developed, and through that awareness we can talk ourselves out or through those habits of behaviors. That's the premise in the therapy. Now, if you compare it to Islamic approach, there's nothing, there's no fault in it, really, in that idea of punishment, behavior, conditioning, cognition being connected to behavior. However, it is very, very important, and you probably hear it many times when I say it in my videos, that everything is connected, everything is holistic in accordingly to Quran and Sunnah, and accordingly to what we know about human behavior in Islamic psychology, meaning problem-solving, action-orientated approaches, emotion-focused approaches as well, or spiritual or religious modalities. They all are sort of connected in Islam, and they're not connected in mainstream psychology. So in simple words, meaning your behavior cannot be extracted from your thoughts, but also from your spirituality and from your emotions. Everything is connected in that very circular way. And Quran also teaches us about another very specific point in about behaviors, and that is nafs, the nafsiyat. The nafs is part of our self, and nafs is responsible, accordingly to the recent research in Islamic psychology, it's responsible for behavioral choices. We have three types of nafs, which is naughty, more developed, in most developed. This is like the most paraphrased way I can come up to describe it. So we have nafs, which is living in headlessness, a spiritual and awareness headlessness, completely unaware. It's called amara. And then we have nafs, which is in between, changing of habits, and that is nafs al-lawama. And then we have nafs, which is the most developed, most inclined to stick to ethics and morals as described in Islam, and is probably the best form, the best way to connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is nafs al-mutma'inna, the nafs which enables us to connect with our fitra, with our puristic nature, which is believing in one God. Now, nafs is one of the explanations from the behavioral psychology perspective in Islam. The other perspective is arran. In Quran, in Surah 83, verse 14, we learn, but in their hearts is the arran, covering of the sins and evil deeds which they used to earn. What is this arran? So from the perspective of behaviors or habits of behaviors, arran is that relapse point. This is the reason why we're going back to old habits. I don't know, maybe you're trying to quit smoking, or maybe you're trying to stop lying. Any types of things which are immoral or unethical according to Islamic guidance, and you finding them in yourself, and they are a bit of the struggle. This is because of the arran. Arran is in the heart. You see, we cannot talk about behaviors, and just thoughts, and without talking also about heart, which is also the seat of spirituality. That's how it works. So every bad choice that you make, which in as heartology is called sin or disease of the heart, and in psychology would probably will be called not even mistake, probably just a choice, a maladaptive choice probably, then underneath, and that sin creates a dark spot in your spiritual heart, gulf. And even though if you remove yourself from those habits, underneath that spot, which will be wiped out from you because you're working on yourself, you're moving away from those habits, you will have arran, which is like a shade, like a mark, right? That you've been working on it, but also it is like a boomerang, it's continuously coming back to it. So there are two approaches to work with your nafs and your galb, that's arran aspect. So the first approach, the old Sufi approach, was very rigoristic. It was very orthodox as well. It talked about self-humiliation, self-shaming, self-criticizing, which probably nowadays we understand that creates low self-esteem and furthering of mental health diseases such as depression. Now, the new approach to working with nafs in psychology is based on self-kindness and self-compassion, but also it goes hand in hand with prophetic traits. He, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had plenty compassion and plenty kindness to others. But also the new trends in Islamic psychology, they point out to graduality, meaning to gradual improvements, and that is supported by the prophetic approach, who he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the most beloved actions, behaviors, amal, right? The most beloved actions to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are those that are most consistent, even if they are few. So in simple words, if you're trying to work on your behaviors and you are aware of it, meaning you're turning on your cognition, You also want to take into consideration which approach you want to choose. If you want to choose the old approach, the Sufi approach, the self-humiliation, self-restriction, this Jihad al-Nafs approach, then that is successful as well. Or you can tap into new, probably a positive psychology approach, which talks about giving yourself credits, being kind, giving yourself time, and being self-compassionate. I hope that was helpful. Don't forget to sign to my YouTube channel, AJS Therapy. You can also book a free consultation with me. The link is just there. I don't know if you're aware of that. I see you in next video. Let me if I have any questions before I go. No, I don't. I have a few thumbs up, which is great. If you don't belong to my Sunnah Wellness and Islamic Healing community, now is the time. The link is up there. There's plenty going on there, and plenty more is going to happen from New Year after January, inshallah. Be part of the community, which is supporting each other with healing, doers, but also raising awareness. I'm there supporting people every step of the way, inshallah, and I would love to help you as well. All right, that's it from me. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Until next video, this was Aisha. Assalamu alaikum.